Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through the industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Simone Wright. She's an entrepreneur and intuition expert, internationally respected authority on intuition, evolutionary creativity, and entrepreneurship. Welcome to the show, Simone.
Hi, AJ. Thank you for having me. Good morning from Los Angeles.
You're welcome to the show, Simone. You are welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we'll be talking right now. We'll talk about intuition, we'll talk about wisdom, we will talk about artificial intelligence. So we understand intuition in our own way, Simone. But I want to understand about it from you. You are an intuition expert. So help us understand, is it the same way that you look at intuition as a lot of people like me look at intuition, or is it a bit different than that?
Well, first of all, let me say everybody has intuition. There are so many misperceptions about what intuition is and what intuition isn't, that what I help people do is tap into their own ability to listen to themselves in a way that makes sense, in a way that they can trust, and in a way that they can direct at will. My understanding and my practice of intuition and what I call our first intelligence, I call it our first intelligence because it's a wisdom and an intelligence that we all have before we know anything, before we've been taught anything. The world has conditioned us in any way. It's our first intelligence. So it's natural. It's not magic. It's not woo-woo. It's not voodoo. It's inherent in our biology. It's inherent in our spirit. It's inherent in every cell in our body. And what I help people do is learn how to listen to that wisdom and then be able to direct it in a way that helps them set targets, meet targets, establish goals, and what I say, set trends in their life instead of follow them. But everybody has it, and it's a natural skill.
Right. So what is the role of intuition? Means, is it for alerting us, or is it also for taking action? People say you must think and look at things, analyze it, and then take a decision. Whereas intuition is basically sometimes, at the spur of the moment. Many a times you need to decide whether you should run or you should be there. So help us understand how do we look at intuition, and where does intuition come from? Does it come from the heart? Does it come from the mind?
So many good questions, AJ. So let me start where you started. So intuition has multiple levels. So at its most basic, it is a survival skill. It is gut instinct. It will help you stay alive and safe and secure in your skin suit. And that's the level that we're familiar with as gut instinct, right? We've all had the gut. So yes, intuition is rooted in the gut. But that's a very binary and basic level of intuition. Safe, unsafe, yes, no, stop, go, that sort of thing. That's rooted in the gut. Then there's a level of intuition that's rooted in the heart. And that level of intuition serves connection, communication, community, compassion. When you're wanting to have a really potent conversation with somebody, at least here in the United States, we'll say you're having a heart-to-heart conversation. And in an intuitive conversation that comes from the heart, you'll know what to say. You'll know what questions to ask. You'll know what needs to be felt in that moment. And that's the heart-based intuition. So that's a different level. Then you go up to the head, what I call visionary intuition. And that's where you're using your imagination. That's where you're using ideas. That's where you're setting up a vision for the future, and you're allowing your intuition to guide you through mind, through brain, through visionary power. And then there's sort of the higher level of the intuition, which is more universal, more about the collective, more about how you can serve your entire community. So it's important to understand that at each level, it gets more and more complex, more and more evolutionary, and more evolved as you go up the scale. But again, we all have those levels acting at all times. It's just important that we train our mechanism to be able to, let's say, use it at that level when we need it.
Right.
Question.
Right, Simone. So let's look at now, bring in wisdom now. Where does wisdom fall in between? When does it come to us? And are wisdom and intuition friends, complement each other, or are they totally two different things?
For sure, wisdom and intuition are friends. I would say that wisdom is the language that intuition speaks. And you asked something that was really important in the previous question. You asked, where does sort of intellect and logic fit into the intuitive question? Because a lot of people are very driven by their logic, and that's okay. I'm not saying to anybody to throw out your logical training, but you want to be able to bring those two things together so that you can use logic and intuition and combine them, and that's what shapes wisdom, right? So when I was working with law enforcement, this is where I got my intuition street credibility, was helping law enforcement, police departments find missing children and cold case files. The intellect was, we need to find this child. And there may have been data or information that we knew. We had certain facts. So that's your logic, right? The facts, what you know. But the intuition will bring in what you don't know, what you're not aware of. Again, first intelligence, what you don't know that you don't know. And where those two things combine, that's where wisdom is shaped. So when you're using intuition as an entrepreneur, for example, we're going to set targets, and we need our logical mind to do that. So targets are things like ideas. What are the ideas that you want to shape and grow? What is the kind of money that you'd like to create? And what is the time frame? So those three things you start to shape with your logical mind. You make choices: time, ideas, and money. So you've got a really strong target triad. And then you allow your intuition, through generating a coherent, ordered, harmonic heart field, to then start to guide you, like the GPS in your car. And then what emerges out of that is the wisdom. So you're using your logical mind to shape your target. You're using your intuition to help direct you. And what that shapes is a wisdom strategy that will be unique to you. It might not suit anybody else, but it's accurate and correct for you. Does that make sense?
Right. It makes sense. Now, where does wisdom stay? You said intuition stays in the gut. Then mind has its own place. Then where does intuition reside? Does it have any place, or it just comes just like intuition does?
Well, think of it this way. So we talked earlier about where it sits in the body: gut, heart, head, and then in the energetic field. I want you to think of your body like a biological antenna, right? Just again, like the GPS in your car. And your body is the antenna. The intuition is the information that you get through that antenna. So the intuition isn't really located anywhere in the body, but the body is the receiver. It's the transmitter. It's like the radio antenna trying to find a certain radio station. Like if you want to listen to country music, or you want to listen to spiritual music, or you want to listen to rock and roll, you're going to set your tuner to find that radio station. So the intuition information, the information that you're seeking is actually in the field around you, what scientists call the quantum field. And your body, and every single cell in your body is the receiver of that information. And then your body will receive it in the gut or in the heart or in the head. So your whole body is an antenna, and the information it's seeking is that intuitive wisdom that's carried in the field. To get a little sciencey there.
Right, Simon. And you have explained it. Now you see the setting. You are explaining, I totally understand it. I have seen
Good.
some of the things in my early childhood also, when there was no
Mm-hmm.
cell phone or neither the talk of GPS. So I can get it. But now
Yeah.
look at a law enforcement situation where people, all these officers are discussing. And then they
Mm-hmm.
say that, listen, we are not able to find these missing children. Let's get an intuition expert which will help us. Think of that.
Yep.
Who would want to say, okay, let's do that? Because there they
Yep.
talk about, hard facts, evidence, and somebody will think this guy is mad or something. I want to
Yes.
understand that situation. That must have, something like this that must have gotten you into one of those missing children cases. Help us understand about your entry into that and how you
Okay.
actually got down to where their faces who used to look at you strangely and thinking, they failed, but how will Simone help us?
Yeah, yeah. Well, yes, you're right. It's a big leap for law enforcement to bring in an intuition person because they do follow the facts, and court cases need facts. You can't bring intuition into court. But how I got my start with law enforcement was I've been an intuitive. I've been very sensitive intuitively as a child, just like you said you were. And as children, we are all so intuitive, but then it gets trained out of us. But a friend of mine who was a police detective and had been a police detective for 25 years knew that I was an intuitive, knew that I was teaching people and training people. And they were stuck in a case. And I was coming through town, and he called me and he said, would you be interested in helping us? Maybe just see what you can see, come in and help. And so I did. I came in, and he kept it, he wasn't talking to everybody about it. He sort of kept it on the down low. And I gave him some information. He took that information to the people in his community, the police detectives, and I had a lot of the accurate information that helped them solve a case, even what they call holdback, which is only the information that the police and the victims or perpetrator know. So I had a lot of the information that they knew that they needed. And then they said to us, would you be interested in doing this for us full time? And I said, no, but what if I could teach you guys how to do it? And they said, well, you can do that. And I said, yeah, because it's a biological function and everybody has it. It's like working a muscle. I can teach anybody how to do it. And so I developed the training program for them. And I had to be able to do it rooted in science, right? What's going on biologically? How are you directing your mind? What targets are you setting? What are you feeling in your body? So to go back to the question of how does it work when I'm looking for a missing kid? So somebody calls me and says, we're missing a kid, and they'll give me the name of the kid and maybe when they disappeared. And so I have to set a very strong target. And for me, and this is really important to everybody who's listening, the target has to be clear. It has to be rooted in outcome, and it has to be in the present moment. So in a case like that, if I'm looking for a missing kid, my target is the kid is home. That's the target. Super simple, super precise. The kid is home. It's not, oh, the kid is missing. Help me find the kid. Where's the kid? La, la, la. It's the kid is home. And so that's the target. The kid is home. And then I tell my intuitive mind, show me the kid. And I'll start to get images in my head. And I'll start to get feelings in my body. And that's the information I give to the police. And then the police will follow that information. And But what's most important in that is the setting of the very strong and clear target. So when we're working intuitively, you have to be very clear about what you want your intuition to help you discover, help you use wisdom to find. Again, like the GPS in your car, if you don't put in a destination in the GPS in your car, you'll never leave your driveway, right? So I had to be very practical, and I had to be very rooted in science and simplicity in order to get the police to trust me. And then I had to be able to go in and be able to do what I said I could do. And, but it's way more fun working with entrepreneurs than it is finding.
Right. So did some of these police people, did they actually were able to learn from you, and did they succeed in whatever you taught them?
Yeah, they were able to learn. Some were still very skeptical. There were still a few that were like, meh. But here's the first question that I asked when I went into that room. I had 22 police detectives. And the first question I asked them, I said, how many of you have always had a gut instinct when you go into the job where you know something is safe, you know something is right, you know something is wrong, you've just known it? And every hand in the room went up. And this is what I always ask my entrepreneurs as well. How many times have you had a gut instinct? And you said, AJ, you have gut instincts all the time, right? So we've all had it. So the cops were agreeable to say, we've all had the gut instinct. Some of them were a little skeptical that it could be trained and developed, but I'd say 90% of them started being able to recognize, oh, that's what that is. Oh, that's what that is. Because nobody had ever told them the specifics of how it worked. So sure, there were still a few holdouts that were like, man, this is horse hooey, this isn't going to work. But the rest of them were like, ooh, tell us more. So, and they were able to take it into their life too, not just the job, not just work. They were able to take it home. So they had better levels of stress. They were able to relax more. They weren't all, tense bringing stuff home with them. So yeah, it took a minute, but they agreed with me eventually.
Absolutely. So you see, I understand a bit, though I'm not a professional one, neither I'm one intuitive expert or something. But for example, I'll tell you that, you see, my show, I've done more than 1,200, 1,300 live shows on my podcast.
Wow.
And I don't do even one pre-meeting. And I don't reject or accept based on anything else, but accept that if I'm getting vibes correctly or not. Or and you see, every person is different. I'm till date, in the last 2.5 to 3 years, I've not even had one incident, one case when my guest, I have not gelled properly. So it is not it is just like, the few seconds that you get to understand, you try to bring your frequencies together and make sure that, you are tuned with that frequency. But your work starts a bit before that. You try to connect them while you are also doing the research.
For sure.
So that thing, I don't know how to explain. You are an expert, but this is my gut feeling with which I go with.
Exactly.
And by God's grace, it has been successful. But in my earlier, in my childhood, I used to see in my hometown, thousands of kilometers away from here, from New Delhi, I used to see somebody used to be missing from the town, and their mothers used to go to someone, I don't remember her name, but some lady, and she used to give them some hints. I was a child, 8 years, 10 years, and I didn't know that much, 40 years around now. So I used to wonder, how can, see, my scientific mind will think, how can somebody sitting here will be able to tell something? And many a time it used to be correct. But now everything has taken a full circle. Talking to you now makes me understand it much more scientifically, and gets the proof that this sort of a thing is going to go into the future. It will become much more formalized. So tell us, how do you see this, I should say, science going forward? How is it that entrepreneurs are using it? You say some entrepreneurs use it very, very well. How is it that they are using it? And how is it that as more and more people understand this technique, this science, they will start using it just like they are using data analytics and so many analytics for their businesses? Help us a bit about this, Simon.
Sure, sure. Well, we're in an information age right now, aren't we? There's so much, gosh, there's so much news, there's so much information, there's so many experts, there's so many authorities, there's so much information. And you can talk to one, let's say, business authority, let's say a business expert. You talk to one business expert and they say, this is how you build your business. And then you talk to another business expert and they say, no, this is how you build and it's completely opposite. And so there's all of this data, there's all of this information, and it's only growing bigger and bigger. It's only going to get that I call it the tsunami, the data wave. It's getting bigger. But what that does is that, and so we could call that information in the environment. And what we do then as a body, as an evolutionary divine structure, is it's going to evolve in response to the environment. So with all of that data and all of that information, what's happening, why it's so good for us intuitively, is because it's triggering the intuition to come back online in a bigger way, right? So all of the data and all of the information would put a structure into survival mode, because we go, oh my God, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to function. You're in survival mode. So your intuition comes online and says, hey, look over here. Do it this way. This is what's correct for you. And so the evolution is actually happening intuitively because of all of the extra information that we're forced with. And so we're going to have to become more intuitive in order to be able to surf the information wave that's coming. And so the biology of the body, the science of the body, and how the chemistry of all that works is going to come online in a more potent way. And I think that's why more and more people, entrepreneurs, Richard Branson, Oprah Winfrey, Warren Buffett, Steve Jobs, and people like that are all coming out of the closet to talk more and more about their intuition. And because there's so much data, more and more people are like, okay, well then how do I do that? And that's why this is such a fun time for me to be able to teach people this stuff, because everybody's really like thirsty for it now. But
Absolutely, Simon. So one thing I wanted to understand is that what is the best situation for you to be most intuitive? How do I get? Is it using a lot of, say, tools, artificial intelligence tools you use so your mind gets clogged? Or is it that you can use it to a better extent by using something from there? Is it the social media? Because again, it fills your mind with so many things, garbage and the good. Also, so much of information is there. Again, the garbage and the good. So amidst all these things, how do you make your intuition work best? Do I need to go to the jungle and meditate a bit for my intuition to work better? Or will it work amidst, earlier, because there used to be a threat, so my intuition would be at the topmost place. So is it amidst all these things, the intuition will work better? Help us understand this part.
Sure. So when we're playing with our intuition, we have to build it on a really strong foundation. And the foundation, it's called the intuition foundation. You build it on a principle of 3. And that principle is rooted on peace at the bottom. So if this is your triangle, peace is at the bottom, precision is the next one, and perception is the third. But you have to be able to start the intuitive conversation rooted in peace. Now, the scientific word for peace is coherence. And what that is, it's an ordered wave function, starts in the heart, and it brings order and coherence to every cell in the body. It goes from a coherent heart, shapes a coherent brain, shapes coherent cells, which then enables you to access the field in a coherent way and gather information. So the scientific word for peace is coherence. It's order. It's harmony. Now, you could learn to cultivate peace in the middle of New Delhi. You could be standing in the middle of an intersection of traffic, but because you're peaceful in your heart, you're not letting the environment stress you out, you'll have access to your intuition in the middle of that human jungle, right? Or you could go into the real jungle and sit under a tree and find that coherence. What I like to do is I like to practice when it's peaceful. I'll go out into nature and or I'll meditate in my office or my studio where there's no pressure. And then I take that out into the world, out into business, out into, helping my clients, because that's where it gets strung. You want to be able to access that intuition, that coherent piece while you're living your life. You can't say, wait, please. Let me just take 5 minutes and go meditate for a second. You can't do that. You've got to be able to do it on the fly. But you build the muscle, you practice when stakes are low, and you have the time to build the muscle so that when you're out in life, when you're out in business, you've developed the fitness to be able to access it whenever you need it. So
wonderful. There is much to learn from you about all these things, Simone, and I'm sure a lot of people would like to learn, understand, and be a part of this whole new thing, understanding and taking their businesses, their entrepreneurship forward. So what's the best way for them to do so, to connect with you?
Sure. Well, you can come and visit me on my website at www.simonewright.com. That's SIMONEWRIGHT.com. You can pick up a copy of my book, First Intelligence, Using the Science and Spirit of Intuition. You can get that on Amazon. And then I've got all sorts of training programs. The one specific for entrepreneurs is First Intelligence E, and that's Intuition for Entrepreneurs. And you can always come and work with me one-on-one. I coach a lot of people directly who are working on specific targets for their entrepreneurial business. And I don't tell them what to do. I train them how to access their own wisdom so they know within themselves what is best for them. Because for everybody, it's different. Your road to success is going to be profoundly different than mine. And so I help people find what that inner guidance is so they know how to build their life their way. So those would be the best ways to come and play with me. And I've got stuff on YouTube as well. Modern Mystics with Simone Wright. So there's lots of ways to come and learn more.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.